Welcome to Autism Spa. My name is Shahriar Afshar, your host and the exec director of our sponsor, Autism Society of San Diego. I'm here today with Kate Swenson, the author of Finding Cooper's Voice, noted activist, autism parent, just like many of us watching. It's really a great pleasure to have Kate here. She's also one of our featured speakers in the upcoming conference, Autism Mental Health Social Health Conference at San Diego, February 7. If you miss it, we will, of course, have some videos and transcripts of the event online later. But it's really a great pleasure to have Kate. You know, a lot of us in the community, we all have our own lived experience. We all have our different perspectives of how we've adjusted. And I love, I think, what you've done, really being a positive force. So many parents need inspiration. You know, how tired and overwhelmed and exhausted are we? You know, I every morning, 7 days a week, whether you feel like it or not, you're on, right? If you're a special needs parent, like many of us in this community. So I just feel like parents like yourself that are able to channel that energy into really capturing what I call being a witness to our kids' lives in the books and the podcasts and the articles and the activism that we do is so important to their identity. You know, forget about us, you know, to their identity, their sense of self-worth and their you know, personal identity. It's just so important, right? So I wanted to hear what your journey was like. How did you end up here? How did you decide to, you know, kind of not be a quiet, you know, parent and just dealing what you were dealing with, but to tell the story and to become kind of the influencer, if I may say, in this community? How did you get here?
Yeah, so my son Cooper is 14 years old. He has a diagnosis of severe nonverbal autism. But like so many other parents, he was my firstborn. I have 4 kids now, but he was my firstborn. I never thought that I would have a child with special needs. Never crossed my mind. I did everything as you're supposed to do, and it never crossed my mind, honestly, that it could happen. And when I started to see the signs of it, it really felt like I was getting on a roller coaster that I couldn't get off, and it just kept going faster and picking up speed. And really, truly, one of the scariest things is you're expected to be an expert and an advocate overnight, and it didn't feel natural to me. I wanted the doctors to be right, and I wanted you know, people just to tell me what to do, and no one would. And so I learned really early on that by sharing our story, and just simply at the grocery store or at school or with whomever, I was really making a difference, and people were drawn to our story. And it wasn't like we were doing anything fantastic or special. We were just living this life alongside autism. And so I started blogging. I actually started writing before Cooper was diagnosed. I thought it was just a speech delay, and I held on to that so tight. I wore it like a coat, speech delay. And then when he was diagnosed, when my husband and I drove back, we had a 3-hour drive from his appointment. The number was something like 1 in 63 kids have autism. Right. And my husband and I said to each other, where are the kids? I mean, we were well connected, and we knew no one that had a child with a disability, let alone autism. So I just started writing about it, and it brought all of this into my life. I now do this for a living. I speak and I write and I share, and there's good parts and there's bad parts. There's all of it mixed together. But I really, truly believe that we are moving the needle on autism awareness. I can see it, and I know advocacy is tiring, but I really do see it.
That's wonderful. And I think a lot of parents will relate to your experience, right? First, there's a little bit of a denial, you know, not my kid, right? Not, you know, and I think maybe I was that person in our kid. My wife was the first one that noticed the signs, but my son regressed. So he went right up to maybe 2 and about 2, and then he kind of started losing, which is really even tougher to watch. You know, it's almost like you're almost there and then you start going back, which is tough. But to be able to kind of channel that energy, you know, I see a lot of parents, especially in our support groups, I see a lot of young parents a bit heartbroken. They're grieving in a different way. You know, they come to these support groups, and obviously they're looking for hope and affirmation. They're looking for direction. Am I doing the right thing? Am I enough? Am I? So many questions. I think you maybe alluded to, parenting doesn't come with a manual, but special needs parenting, man, that's
Crash
even tougher,
course.
right? Like, yeah, you're a crash course. You're drinking through a fire hose. You don't know if you're doing it right. And I think, again, something you alluded to, so many relatives and friends come and tell you, oh, my uncle's cousin's brother's roommate was delayed a couple of days or a couple of months. I'm sure he'll be fine. I remember our pediatrician kind of echoing that because he touched my son's head in an exam and he didn't react. My son didn't, said because it was not sensitive to touch because that's where he was on the spectrum. He wasn't, thank God he's not sensitive to touch. Some other kids are. So he said, no, he looks okay to me. I said, oh my God, that was an old school pediatrician. And so we've come so much along since then. Tell me how you find this journey, how you interact with the community, other parents. What have you found to be the most compelling story? I mean, what in how you share it? Tell me how people react and respond to what you're sharing, and then tell me what they're telling you, the stories that maybe wasn't your experience.
Well, I'll tell you and if this answers the question. So the day that we found out that Cooper had severe nonverbal autism, which was a new term, we thought it was just autism. We were just young parents and found out this new term. When I got home that night, I entered it into Google, severe nonverbal autism. And I will tell you what it brought up was terrifying. It was dark, grainy YouTube videos that I swear had been filmed with a camcorder while a young adult was having a meltdown or a hard time, should not have been on the internet. And in that moment, I looked at my son, and this is in my book, the story. I looked at my son, who is this beautiful, angelic 3-year-old, just darling. And I looked at him and I said, there's no way that that's going to be your story. And so now my dream is when I share or when I talk about autism, yes, there's hard parts. I'm not going to gloss over it. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy because it's not, and that doesn't help anybody or help our kids. But I really want to tell stories of hope and laughter and happiness. And I think that is what's helping people the most. And it's not just mom and dad, it's helping grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and people in the community that are afraid of this diagnosis. There's people that will hear autism and they're afraid. And I'm telling you, you don't need to be afraid of Cooper. He's a squishmallow. Like, he's just not, he's pure joy. And so a couple of years ago, I started doing in-person events, and that is what's helping people the most in my area. I think we're so isolated. So we do an event every month here in Minnesota, online and in person, but really those ones where people come together and they laugh and they cry and they hug each other. And when you meet another parent who gets it, you can just cut the crap. You don't have to pretend and say, but I love my child. You can just be honest. That's what I think people need, is to feel normal in our lives. And your event that you're having, the ones that I have, that's what do it. That's what I think is saving us.
Right. That personal, affirmation, like I said, seeing other parents not necessarily struggling as you are, but simply understanding your experience. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you if everyone in my family, immediate social circle who doesn't have a connection to autism understands our life. They sometimes invite us to places, and when I say, well, I can't go, we don't have a caregiver, we don't, and they're puzzled by that. Or sometimes they very kindly offer, oh, well, how about we'll come and take care of him while you guys go out. I go, yeah, but then I'll be worried about you, then I'll be worried about you. Not that there's any kind of concern, but I would be concerned that you don't know what to do. You don't speak his language, right? Parents, even if it's like my son is just like yours, nonverbal, you could call it severe, high support needs, low functioning, profound, severe, fill in the blank. It doesn't really matter. What I also tell parents, and this is kind of the experience that we're having, and this is why this conference is so important, is that, hey, listen, your kid is still your kid. I mean, you whatever label the therapist and the psychiatrists, in our society puts on these kids, they're still your kid. They still have a sense of identity, a sense of self-worth, and they need to be themselves, and they will express themselves the best way they can. being a parent of a neurotypical, as you are, neurotypical kids, I can tell you the other one has just as many problems as this one. You know, the typical teenage problems, bullying, all the typical teenage social anxiety, all that exists. Now, my other son doesn't have those concerns, right? But he has different needs. So, so that fear that you mentioned, when I tell people about my typical Tuesday, I see this frown faces and concern, and because it's nothing they can relate to.
No.
They can't relate to any of the challenges that, let's say, people like you and I get up with every morning. Sometimes it's 3:00 in the morning. It doesn't matter, rain or shine, whether you had a good night or not. You may need to get up
There's
at
no
3 a.m.
No
right?
vacation.
Yeah, what I think people don't realize, and I'm so appreciative of the way you characterized it, is what a joy it is to be a parent to someone like that. So pure, so honest. He's simply gratified and happy by the simplest things in life, laughing as many of these kids do, having these laughing fits, right? For no reason.
Cooper
People
was
don't
having
know
one
that.
when I came downstairs, actually.
Yeah, right? So like there's no reason. I don't need a medical diagnosis for why somebody is laughing at a silly thing, right? We have all those experiences that people don't always see. They only see the negative part, as you put it. But there's all this positive experience that we have as parents. In some way, when I compare the two, and I would love your analysis, I guess, of how you deal with your other kids as siblings. When I take care of my autistic son, I know what I'm doing is working. I brush his teeth, I put his clothes on. I know it's working. When I have a father-son talk with my other teenagers, I don't know if it's working. I don't know, right? I hope it's working. I hope he takes my advice and takes in life and makes the right decisions. But I don't know right there if I'm helping him. So I would love your experience, as you are, like me, have kids on both sides. How do you balance the two?
Yeah, so Cooper's 14. I have a 12-year-old son who they're very close. And then we had a big gap. And then I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I will tell you, parenting is hard. It's not just parenting autism that is hard. And people often assume, I get this a lot in my social media, they assume that Cooper's my hardest child, that Cooper takes up the most of my time. And I will tell you, I swear my kids high five who's going to be the harder kid on any given day. They just all give me a run for my money. My daughter refuses to potty train. My 12-year-old refuses to do his homework. I'm sure, all the parts. And so, balance is a joke. We can say that it's such a joke. I think we just, we have really dove into this parenting thing in the sense that we don't want our other 3 kids to ever resent Cooper. And it's something that we've really, really focused on as parents, almost to the fault of ourselves, in the sense that my husband and I have no time for each other. We're so busy with the kids. Our 12-year-old is in 2 sports. Our 6-year-old's in 2 sports. It just keeps going.
By the way, we do offer couples therapy later. No,
yes. There's just we want them to have an identity. We want them to not just be the autism sibling. I'll tell you the number one thing that I do on the sibling path that I think I've done right, and I haven't done everything right, but I give my kids a space to ask any question and have any feeling that they want around autism. And because of that, they are fearless advocates. I will tell you, my 12-year-old, he is going to change the world. And it's because we've given him space to ask and feel and worry and be scared and be angry and embarrassed and all of it. And he's such a protector.
That's nice to know. That's encouraging. Like you say, I want to say to all the parents, parenting is hard. It doesn't matter what your kids' challenges are. In some ways, our autistic kids' life desires and hopes and dreams are simpler to manage. They're happy with chicken nuggets and some the same toy that they stem with, or some other activity, and they're at peace and they find joy in life and they're able to laugh. My other one has, may have anxiety about college or all kinds of other social issues. It's all parenting. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think even for all the years I've been involved in this conversation, that label doesn't help. Severe autism, profound, all that stuff. It may characterize a certain group of kids in our community, but it doesn't help us be better parents. I think what you're doing and sharing your story helps bring that joy and comfort and hope, which is so important. And to your point about couples, I always tell people, look, oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first before you can help somebody else. Take care of yourself, find peace, find some joy. I know it's difficult. Whatever moments that you spend on yourself or your loved one, your spouse, your significant other, helps you be a better parent. Honestly, at the end of the day, the doctors and the therapists, they are there to supplement your best decision and your best choices that you make for your family, which is that's all they want. At the end of the day, they just want to be loved. And only you can do that as parents, not a therapist or any other therapy that you go to, right? Which are all good stuff. Take as much therapy as you can get and all the supplemental support you can get, but there's no replacing that love at home. There just isn't. So going to this conference coming up, what would be your most important takeaway? What do you want people to know? Your maybe 1, 2, 3 top message points.
Mm-hmm. Well, so much of my story is about the transformation that I made as a mom. Cooper's exactly who Cooper's supposed to be and was going to be. And Cooper's great. Cooper's thriving. He's happy. He's loved. What I didn't realize is it's me that needed the work, and my husband and our family. And it took me crashing and burning to realize that. I became obsessed with helping Cooper. It became my whole life. I became almost a martyr, which I'll share on Friday about how that happened, until it finally hit me. I need to be the mom that this boy needs me to be. And what that took for me was really feeling all the feelings, and it's grief. We can dress it up with a bow. We can call it whatever we want and sugarcoat it because it makes people uncomfortable, but it's grief. And I had to unpack all my feelings. And once I did that, I healed really quickly and I became the advocate that I am today. But the second layer to that is we can't feel guilt for our feelings. It's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be jealous, and it's okay to be mad that you can't go to Disney like every other family. And it's, we just had a hockey tournament this weekend, and we've never been able to do that as a family. And it's not fair. It makes me frustrated. But get over it. I mean, keep going, keep moving forward. What can we do as a family? So I just share really my story of transformation and becoming the mom that Cooper wanted me to be. And then I really need families to know that they're not alone. And I keep hammering that home. But for me, it was the isolation that was the hardest part. I was isolated at the park. I was isolated at school. I was isolated everywhere. And I was so lonely. And building a community of moms around me. I have so many friends now here in Minnesota that all have kids in some degree of the spectrum. Anywhere that they land, doesn't matter. It honestly does not matter, because we're walking this path together. And so I guarantee there'll be tears in my presentation, because I try to be really vulnerable and just show that me standing up here, I can tell you jokes to make you laugh, but I was at a pretty low point for a while.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, we've all been there together, whether we talk about it or not. Definitely couldn't echo your thoughts anymore. We need to be open about those feelings. It helps. It's okay to be angry and frustrated and grieve, and all those things are okay. It's what we say to our support groups when we meet with them. People that are experiencing this for the first time, I know it's tough. I've seen young parents who just got the diagnosis and they're in shock, kind of as we all have been. And then I see older veteran parents who could not give less of a fill in the blank. I mean, they just are okay with all of it. That's just their kid. One kid, like you say, keeps getting into trouble in another way. Another kid does this, does that. This one just does whatever it's made to do. And as parents, our job is unconditional acceptance. and love and support whatever we can do, and but still be ourselves and allow ourselves to be human beings. To not necessarily expect too much of us, because I think they deserve better. So, Kate, you kind of hit all the nails right on. I'm so happy that you're going to be part of this conversation on February 7th in San Diego as part of the Autism Society event. We're going to have a lot of good speakers. This podcast will be on our YouTube channel within a couple of days, so people will see it before February 7th. But I hope you can continue to do what you're doing. You are an inspiration to other parents like myself. And we just want to see more parents kind of follow your leadership and share their stories. The more, the better.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited for Friday. I can't wait. It's going to be warm.
Yeah. Come on to San Diego. It's much better.
Yes.
Talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.